All right, what's going on, party people? I got my team builder here for my match with Evan, week 5. I think we're in week 5. We'll say week 5. We'll pretend that's the week, even if it's not. My week 5 match with Evan. Obviously, you can see kind of the teams there on the screen. Evan's got a really, really good team, especially after making some of those free agent trades the week before last. Picking up that Crobat and Keldeo. I think that really rounded out his team in a lot of really positive ways, and so I'm concerned about a couple of Mons. He just has a lot of good, a lot of good solid Mons. He's got some pretty significant offensive threats with things like the Darmanitan and the Mamoswine. He's got some setup threats with like the Azelf and the Keldeo and stuff like that. Even technically the Clefable if you wanted to go that route. Zygarde, with the Dragon Dance and stuff like that. So, definitely not taking anything for granted here. Evan's got a lot of really threatening Pokemon, so I'm going to jump in just a minute here, talk about what I'm bringing and why I'm bringing it. Hopefully I got the team that we need this week to kind of handle what Evan is going to be bringing. And so we can go ahead and jump in. Oh, it is week 5. I labeled it. Week 5. Okay. So first off, we've got Zapdos here. Flap coming back. This is a defensive set, as you can see here. Pretty much full, max with just, leftover in special attack and bold. Heavy duty boots. He's got a couple of rock setters. I imagine if he brings rocks this week, it would probably be on Clefable. I don't think he would run them on Mamoswine, and I think those are his only 2 rockers, if I'm not mistaken. But Corviknight may also get rocks. I can't remember at the moment. But Zapdos is here. Defensive, static. Heat Wave, for things like the Serena and the Corviknight, things like that. Just mostly for the Serena, honestly, because I would hit something else on the Corviknight, but just to have a little bit of coverage there, just in case, he's switching in or something like that. I could potentially get a burn with a Heat Wave. I don't imagine I'll hit Heat Wave too often. I will probably be doing more discharging and U-turning and things like that, but I've got it there just in case we need it. Roost, obviously, for being able to recover some health. Pretty straightforward there. I'm going to discharge over Thunderbolt this week because in my calcs, the extra damage that I get from Thunderbolt doesn't really change much. I'm still it doesn't guarantee me a one-shot or anything like that. Most of what I could one-shot with Zapdos, I would one-shot with Discharge or Thunderbolt. And then otherwise it's going to be a 2-shot regardless. And so I'm running Discharge just to give me that additional chance of paralysis there. Obviously Discharge really good for the Crobat, the Keldeo, Corviknight specifically. Those guys are super effective damage there. And then if I can catch something on a switch, he's got some stuff that doesn't want to be paralyzed. Obviously, Darmanitan doesn't want to be paralyzed, and Azelf doesn't want to be paralyzed. Serena, he doesn't have anything that really wants to be paralyzed. I just have to be careful depending on what he brings, because he does have some really good immunities here for the Discharge in the Mamoswine, the Zygarde, and the Raikou. And so I'll have to make sure, especially considering what I see on Team Preview, I'll just have to be mindful of that while we're playing. U-turn just to get a little bit of pivot action if I come in and kind of need to switch out, or if I know he's going to switch out. Obviously, U-turn is really good for situations like that. Zapdos is primarily here to switch into the Corviknight, and then just give me a little bit of some potential options elsewhere. It's just like a defensive switch so that something else that I have on my team doesn't have to take a hit. If he's flare blitzing and stuff like that with the Darmanitan, maybe I can switch in and get a paralysis there on the static. Zapdos doesn't take the Flare Blitzes very well. I mean, really nothing does because it's Darmanitan and he's, hits like a truck with the sheer force Flare Blitzes. But, if I could get a paralysis off, that might be something that comes in handy. At the very least, it would force him to kind of go for a Heal Bell or Aromatherapy type move at some point during the match if he wanted to deal with that. So that's the Zapdos. That's kind of one of the themes for my team. I'm bringing some more bulk this week than I typically would. I don't have as much, kind of just sheer offense. I'm going more the bulky route, and we'll kind of see why as I'm going through it. But they got their purposes. So first up is Flap Flap. There. Secondly is Beansy Entei, again running the boots. And obviously pretty standard set there. Sacred Fire, really good stab option, really good chance of burn. Sacred Fire is good to hit against almost everything. He doesn't really have anything that wants to take a Sacred Fire. Even a thick, fat Mamoswine is not a great switch in for something like that because he definitely doesn't want to get burned. And so, he doesn't have a lot of great switches for that. So Sacred Fire is good there. Extreme Speed, obviously just for the priority, hits some things decently hard. Some of his faster Pokemon are also, relatively frail, with the Azelf, the Crobat, and the Zygarde, things like that. And so Extreme Speed could come in handy there. Stomping Tantrum is really just for the Raikou. I didn't really need a lot of other coverage moves on Entei, so I threw in Stomping Tantrum just in case, I needed a way to kind of chunk the Raikou a little bit more. So we got that going for me there. And then Flame Charge, obviously, just to get a speed boost there, kind of get myself a little pseudo Choice Scarf if I need a little bit extra speed, depending on what he brings and things like that. This speed right here, this 216 speed, just allows me to outspeed everything. Who was that for, actually? Hold on. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, yeah, so this lets me outspeed everything that is Darmanitan and slower. So I outspeed the Darmanitan and the Corviknight and the Mamoswine and all that sort of stuff. Entei only comes in at base 100 speed. And Evan has quite a few really fast Pokemon on his team, and so those things are going to outspeed Entei, even if I went max speed. So obviously I just threw the rest into HP there, because he's got the Azelf, the Crobat, Keldeo, Raikou, Zygarde. All of those are faster than a max speed Entei. So, and then he's got some potential Choice Scarf options as well. And so that's what the Flame Charge is for, and then the 216, like I said, just to outspeed everything that's not going to be faster than me no matter what. So that's Beansy Entei. Beans is a really good switch as well. Again, kind of these first two, the Zapdos and Entei, both of them, are kind of there as ways to come in and really hit the Corviknight. And then Entei is a pretty good switch in on Clefable as well if it's going for Moonblast and stuff like that, because I'll resist those hits. So we got Beansy Entei here. I will have to be aware of the Queenly Majesty on Serena. I'm not super worried about it with this particular Pokemon, just because if he switches in Serena on an Extreme Speed from Entei, then he'll have Serena in against Entei, and that's a beneficial scenario for me. So I could just immediately go for a Sacred Fire or something like that. So that's not a situation he would want to be in. So I don't think he would make a switch like that, but that is something to be aware of. So that's Entei. Thirdly, we got Lil Bop here. I'm bringing kind of a bulky, especially defensive Mesprit this week, with a little bit of utility. This 56 in special attack just gives me a little bit more damage output, depending on some of the sets that he's running. That does come in handy and kind of guarantees some 2 shots instead of having to hit something 3 times. So we got Little Bop here. Obviously, Levitate, Leftovers, all that good stuff. Levitate, again, is a good thing if he's going for Earthquakes and stuff like that with the Darmanitan. Well, yeah, Darmanitan gets Earthquake, but Mamoswine, either of those options here. U-turn, just pivot, just to get me in and out. I am running Stealth Rocks this week. The extra chip damage that I could potentially get off on some of the Pokemon, especially if he has to switch out more, really starts to matter depending on the matchup that I'm in, or whichever Pokemon I happen to be in with at the time. And so like Stealth Rock kind of guarantees some one shots, whereas otherwise I would have to 2-shot something. So the Stealth Rocks could come in pretty handy this week. He's got quite a few Pokemon that are weak to them as well, with the Crobat and the Darmanitan and the Mamoswine and things like that. And then with the frailer Pokemon, they don't want to take rocks damage either, so that's something. He does have some potential hazard removal, but if I take care of those Pokemon pretty early, or even if I force them to have to go for a move like that versus a damage move, that could be beneficial as well. So still something to think about there. So Stealth Rocks could come in handy. Psychic, obviously good stab move, good for the Keldeo and the Crobat and the Surfetch'd and things like that. And then anything that doesn't resist it. He doesn't have any dark types on his team, so nothing can come in for free on a Psychic type move. So that's good. That's something to note there. Ice Beam, obviously super effective on the Zygarde specifically, but also could chunk the Serena a little bit better than Psychic could. Still neutral on the Corviknight and still super effective on the Crobat, things like that. So that's the Mesprit, kind of a bulkier set there. We're running a Choice Scarfed Haxorus, excuse me. This outspeeds everything on his team that is not also Choice Scarfed. And then depending on what he Choice Scarfs, this could still potentially outspeed those. So I did just mention the Terrakion. Obviously, you can see here on Team Preview that I am not bringing Terrakion this week. But looking at Evan's team, if he was going to Choice Scarf anything, especially taking the Terrakion into consideration, I imagine that it would be either the Darmanitan or the Mamoswine, because both of them can kind of chunk Terrakion for some pretty decent damage, but Terrakion is faster than both of them, normally without any, just kind of standard sets, without any speed boosts or assistance of any kind. And so knowing that Terrakion outspeeds both of them and also one-shots both of them, and the fact that they're kind of two of his biggest offensive presence bringers, I would imagine if he scarfs anything, it would be one of the two of those. Now, could I be wrong about that? Yes. I hope I'm not. I hope I'm reading that correctly. I imagine that would be most likely what he would bring. And so Haxorus here is faster than both of those Pokemon. I have a higher base speed than Mamoswine and Darmanitan, and so this Choice Scarf set will outspeed both of those Choice Scarf sets, obviously barring the Ice Shard from the Mamoswine. So this outspeeds everything that is not Choice Scarfed, and also outspeeds what, in my mind, are the two most likely potential Choice Scarf options if he brings them. So that's what we got going here, and that's what that speed's for, like I just said. The rest in HP, max attack, just to do the damage that I need it to do. Earthquake, Earthquake one-shots the Darmanitan. Earthquake has a chance to one-shot the Raikou. I think it's like a 75% chance if I'm remembering correctly. And Earthquake with Moldbreaker also still hits the Azelf. And so the only things that Earthquake doesn't really do a whole lot to are the Crobat and the Corviknight, obviously, because they're flying, and then Serena can take those pretty well as well. Close combat for that Mamoswine specifically. A close combat on Mamoswine, if it's an offensive Mamoswine, has a chance to one-shot it. A pretty good chance. Again, if he's an offensive Mamoswine, which I imagine he would be, close combat does a minimum of 96%. And so really, really, really good chance to one-shot the Mamoswine. Just generally speaking, if I do get those Stealth Rocks up on his side of the field, then obviously close combat is a guaranteed one-shot after the Stealth Rocks. So something to keep in mind there. If I can get Stealth Rocks up early and he doesn't have a way to get rid of them, then Terrakion outspeeds... Why do I keep saying Terrakion? Haxorus outspeeds Mamoswine and Darmanitan and potentially one-shots both of them. And then, same thing with the Raikou there. Dragon Claw just for the stab if I'm trying to hit something that's not Clefable and that isn't resisting it. Dragon Claw obviously one shots the Zygarde. He's a pretty frail boy. And then Dragon Claw two shots most everything else. Especially some of the more offensive versions. Obviously, if he's running like a really bulky set on something, that would be something to keep in mind. But anything that doesn't take super effective damage from the Earthquake or the close combat, Dragon Claw, two shots most of them, and then Poison Jab is here again for the Serena and the Clefable. Poison Jab two shots, excuse me. Like a bulky Clefable most of the time. If it's max HP and max defense, then Poison Jab does really good damage there. If it's just max HP, then it's a guaranteed two shots. So that's kind of the set we're running here. I don't really have anything on the set for Corviknight, and so that is something to keep in mind. But I do have the reliable switching in of the Zapdos and the Entei for Corviknight, and so I don't think I need... Haxorus is not going to be the one that needs to deal with the Corviknight, so again, assuming that it even comes. And so that's what we got going there. Then we got Pants the Metagross. I'm excited about the Metagross here. So... Earthquake, again, hits all the things that Earthquake hits, the Raikou and the Darmanitan and things like that. Meteor Mash and Bullet Punch are there for just some good Steel Stab. Obviously, Bullet Punch is, good for the priority and things like that. I get to run Adamant this week, so I get a little bit more damage output there. And obviously, again, he could switch Serena in on a Bullet Punch or something to that effect, which is fine, because then if he does that, he then has to take, a Meteor Mash to the face, which Serena doesn't really enjoy either. And I EV'd this set to outspeed a non-invested Serena. So I don't imagine I think every time he's brought Serena so far, it's been like a bulkier, like max HP set. I don't think he's brought speed on it at all yet, if my research has not led me astray. And so, even switching that in on a Bullet Punch would still have to take a big hit after that. So that's a trade-off I'm willing to make there. Obviously, Metagross, especially with the Bullet Punch and things like that, hits the Mamoswine really hard. Also gets the priority for some of those frailer type Pokemon like the Crobat, the Azelf, and the Zygarde. Zygarde gets priority as well in extreme speed, but I can take extreme speeds far better than he can take Bullet Punches, so that's something to keep in mind there. I am running Zen Headbutt here, and I'm torn. I originally had that slot as a Thunder Punch, but I think I'm going to go Zen Headbutt just because Zen Headbutt obviously hits like the Crobat and the Keldeo and the Sirfetch'd. Thunder Punch just gives me something I can click if the Corviknight comes in. But I don't think Metagross is not the Pokemon on my team that needs to deal with Corviknight, kind of in the same way that I mentioned with the Haxorus just a moment ago. I think that's going to be Entei and Zapdos' job. And so I think Zen Headbutt is better. It just gives me a little bit more offensive power. And anything that Thunder Punch would hit, with the exception of Corviknight, Zen Headbutt also hits super effectively, and it also adds Sirfetch'd into that group for super effective damage, whereas Thunder Punch would not. So I think we're going to go Zen Headbutt, mostly for the sake of the Keldeo and the potential Sirfetch'd. So that's what we got there. Shuca Berry. This week, Shuca Berry cuts the damage in half from an incoming super effective ground type move. And so that allows me to take, much more cleanly, an Earthquake from Mamoswine, 1,000 Arrows from Zygarde, or an Earthquake from potentially like a Scarfed, a Scarfed Darmanitan that's choiced into it or something like that. So that is what we got going here. Hopefully that Shuca Berry comes in handy. That could be a potentially, sneaky thing that he's not planning for, so that might be able to allow me to pick up a kill on something where otherwise Metagross might have gone down. Metagross is pretty bulky. It's got good defensive stats. And like I said, I get to run Adamant. I don't have to use points on speed a whole lot this time, so I get to put a lot in HP and things like that. So, we got some bulk on Metagross this time. So hopefully Metagross can put in some work and pick up some kills as well. Lastly, we've got a bulky Impish Silvally Water. Silvally Water is a really good switch in for Icicle Crashes and Fire type moves from the Darmanitan. So as well as potential water moves from Keldeo and things like that. So that is what we got going here. Multi-attack, obviously just a strong, hard-hitting water type move, because this switches in pretty reliably for the most part. I'll still take damage, especially if he's not choiced into something, but switches in pretty well to the Darmanitan and the Mamoswine, and then a super effective I have a water type move which is super effective against both of those Pokemon, which I'm likely to switch in on. So that's what we got going there. Parting Shot, just to give me a little bit of switch initiative. Maybe make something hit a little bit less hard on the way out, especially if I'm thinking I'm forcing a switch there. Parting Shot is a good option for that. Just kind of like a bulky pivot move. I elected to go coverage moves with the last two, just because I kind of toyed with the idea of Thunder Wave and Defog and things like that, trying to figure out how to round out the set. But Thunder Wave doesn't really help me a whole lot, because I think all the things that I would want to Thunder Wave are either immune to Thunder Wave, in like the Zygarde and the Raikou and the Mamoswine. Like, I can't Thunder Wave any of those anyway. And then I might want to paralyze, the Keldeo or the Crobat or the Darmanitan, but in pretty much every scenario, it's going to be better for me to just get a hit off on those and potentially either really weaken them or take them out, rather than just paralyze them and then try to do it on the very next turn. So I think this is a more effective set with the coverage than trying to potentially Thunder Wave stuff, especially since he's got some Cleric options on his team as well. And so X Scissor is good for the Serena and the Azelf. Obviously Serena is a pretty good switch into a water type move from Silvally, so X Scissor's there just in case I need something to hit the Serena with. And then Psychic Fangs is there for the Crobat, the Sirfetch'd, and the Keldeo primarily. Psychic Fangs also cuts through any potential screens that he might bring. I don't know that he would bring screens. I don't think that makes the most sense. I'm mostly running it for the the coverage and the super effective damage, but if he decided to run screens, then Psychic Fangs is helpful there as well. So obviously, like I mentioned before, you can see that I'm not bringing Terrakion this week. I think Terrakion has a relatively decent matchup against some of his team, but his bulkier and then potential Choice Scarf options, I'm not as comfortable with the Terrakion this week, with the Clefable having all these super effective damages and body press potential on Corviknight and things like that, and then the Scarf potential with Mamoswine and Darmanitan. I didn't want to run it Scarfed if I did bring it, and so that would put me at a pretty significant disadvantage there. So I did not bring Terrakion this time around. And then obviously, you can see what's on the screen there and what I didn't bring. But I think for what I'm expecting him to bring and what I feel like I need my team to be able to do this week against Evan, I think these are the most sensible choices that kind of cover all the potential options. And then if he brings anything unexpected, like a potential Choice Scarfer that, is not Darmanitan or Mamoswine, then I think this team kind of allows me to handle those in the best way as well, because all the other Pokemon that make sense as Choice Scarfers are faster than my fastest Pokemon anyway, and so I don't know that he would bring it because I have Terrakion is base 108, and he's got Keldeo, which is base 108, but then Raikou, Zygarde, Azelf, and Crobat, all four are faster, and then a Choice Scarf Mamoswine or Darmanitan, which can do significant damage to Terrakion with a Scarf, would be faster as well, and so I didn't feel like Terrakion was the move this week. So so that's what I'm bringing. That's why I'm bringing it. Hopefully it goes the way that I want it to, and we can pick up a win from Evan. So Evan, if you're watching this, I'm coming for you. It's time. It is time. I'm excited. And then hopefully I will see you guys when we play Evan. So thanks for watching. Peace.